Hello, mates.
Hello, everybody.
How's it going?
It is fair.
Fair. Yeah. Hope everyone had a good Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Happy New Year and shit.
Happy New Year, and hope everyone had a lovely time with their families, loved ones, friends, dogs, cats,
goats.
Whoever you wanted to spend it with. I hope you spent it well, and y'all got drunk.
And ate lots of food.
Yeah, so hope that happened for you.
Yeah, and if not, we're sorry.
Yeah, maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Try again next year. Some fucking chooch in a BMW going past.
We've been watching Jersey Shore Family Vacation for the past while, and we've just started to call each other chooches. That's how that happened. How did our Christmas go?
It was good.
Yeah.
We had a good time.
Yeah, I didn't get drunk at all.
I did.
I know you did.
I did.
You helped my mother polish off the red wine.
All of the wine.
Because I don't drink red wine.
Red wine? Are you sure you don't drink red
wine? Yeah, I don't drink that.
I do.
I know you do. I know you do.
And sherry.
I just ate and I put on 10 pounds.
I didn't. I just drank. Mm-hmm. I drank and built Lego. That's what I did.
Yeah. What did you get for Christmas?
I got loads of cool shit. I got a new phone because my old one was. I got a phone. I got a tablet. I got lots of Lego. I got some tools.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably forgetting some. I got treated.
I got a night vision camera.
You did?
Bracelet, makeup, and some other cool shit.
Yeah, we got lots of cool shit. We were very spoiled.
Very, very spoiled. If you hear anything in the background, it's because we're trying something new with our microphone.
Yeah, because my problem when I'm on doing this is I like to look away from the microphone when I'm talking.
Yeah.
And that's why you get me suddenly being very quiet, then being very loud again. I'm usually loud again because Laura's just told me off for looking away from the microphone.
Yeah.
So we're trying this thing now where it picks everything in the room up.
Rather than just
opposite. So if you hear any random noises like a demon printer or a cat,
yeah,
then it's the demon printer or a cat.
Or some rumbling because we're recording in our spare bedroom, which is facing the road.
Yeah.
And it's not a very busy road, it's
barely a fucking road.
It's just cars come up and down it every now and again. So it's not demons.
Hey there, demons.
Oh, speaking of demons, shall we tell them what we booked for my birthday?
No, what you booked for your birthday.
You gave me full permission.
Yeah,
I asked straight out.
I was a fool.
So, for anyone who doesn't already know, we've started a YouTube channel.
Oh, 16 subscribers now.
20.
20? We've got 20 now?
Yeah.
Jesus.
We're kind of sporadically posting on there.
Low quality content.
Low quality content, but we're just trying to get in the rhythm of it and, post whenever we want. There's no really set schedule at the moment. No. We're trying to upload every week, but
it's not happening.
But maybe every 2 weeks. So yeah, if you want to watch that, go over and watch that. But where my point is I've always wanted to do like an investigation because we're not experienced paranormal investigators. We know what we're talking about.
We're barely experienced podcasters, never mind paranormal investigators.
We know what we're talking about, but we've never actually done it, It's kind of been on my bucket list of things to do an investigation. So I decided to just reach out to this hotel. It's a castle. It's a very, very old castle. Lots of history. Just to see if, we could film there. Obviously, we're not fucking scroungers. We'll pay for our own room and shit.
I did suggest that, but no, apparently that's not the done thing.
No, we'll pay for our own room and shit, obviously.
All 300 of our subscribers isn't enough to get a free shout out.
But, so I just decided to reach out and I asked, would it be okay to film? We're kind of interested in the paranormal and, we do a podcast on YouTube and we just want to film and see if we catch anything. And they're like, yeah, no bother, as long as you don't fucking hound any guests.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, that's fine. And so we booked it. We're staying there for the weekend of my birthday, the end of February. So we're going to take the night vision camera, take the GoPro.
We've got a ghost detector.
Yeah, we got an EMF meter. I really want to get a spirit box because I think that would be really cool, but they're super expensive.
Just do what your man on Proven Demon does and get a normal radio and just cycle through the channels really slowly.
Shade.
Because, that's a spirit box.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing. So the end of February, if, we're probably going to, let the GoPro run for as long as possible during the night.
And take some photos and just
and
do some investigations.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really exciting. That happened yesterday. So
yeah,
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
And there's another place in, where the fuck was it? Cove in Cork. And they haven't emailed me back. So you should introduce this kind of new segment that we're doing.
Well, see, no, I don't. I think we should introduce it together because we had a conversation the other night.
We stayed up until very late.
Yeah.
Having this conversation.
Just having a chat. And
it's hard to explain.
Yeah.
But like, there was this article in Irish News that in Ireland we have a very bad healthcare problem.
Yeah.
It's overcrowding, understaffed, underfunded, everything like that. And there's people waiting for days on end in trolleys in the corridors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this man had a broken neck and he fell off the trolley and died. And he wasn't found for a couple of hours. And so I was looking at that, and then all of a sudden it just disappears from all but one news outlet.
Yeah.
With no explanation, no nothing. And while that could be, his family or something asking for privacy, which it entirely could be, but for whatever reason, that kind of shifted something for me.
It just didn't sit right with you, did it?
No, I don't know why, but I think, like, anyone who believes in, like, conspiracy theories or, just doesn't trust people in general, they kind of have this, like, ping moment where it's all like, we're not in control of anything.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because I do enjoy a good conspiracy theory, but I'm also quite well known for my distrust of anyone in any kind of power capacity.
Yeah, and that other night, that was my ping moment.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about this because we're going to film a video on this.
Yeah.
And, we're just going to chat about it. So if you want to hear more on that, go watch our video. But this kind of where this kind of new segment came out of.
And what we're sort of going to do is we're going to
we're still going to keep the weird news for now. And if you guys like this new kind of segment we're doing, we'll throw it all into that. But we're kind of going to do half and half. I'm going to still keep the weird news. And
I'm going to do some, like, have a look for sort of news headlines that just don't sit right. And I'm maybe going to give my opinions on them.
Yeah.
Because I think that, the thing is certainly in sort of Europe and in the UK and around here and everything, a lot of the news outlets are controlled by one person. That's Rupert Murdoch. He owns B-Sky B, which owns a lot of other companies. He owns News Corp. He owns, I think, about 70 to 8% of the newspapers in the UK. They're all owned by him. So he's kind of got a monopoly on the news. And the other thing about Rupert Murdoch, he's quite a big fan of the Conservative Party. They're in bed together. I think he's donated to the party a few times. And
keep it short.
Yeah, so basically, it's hard to find news that you trust. So the important thing is to, when you see something that doesn't sit right, is just
question it.
Think about it.
I think question news in general.
Yeah.
Just, don't... And we're not saying don't believe everything you read. Like, obviously, like with the fires in Australia. Like,
I'll definitely believe that.
Like, that's not a cover-up. People are dying, animals are dying, and if you can, fucking go donate.
Yeah.
Go donate to that. But just some stuff, when you look into this, the terminology of some of the headlines.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like, it's just fucked up, so you go.
Yeah. So, what I'm going to talk about is maybe not in the sense of the terminology and everything, but it's something to think about. Okay.
Yeah.
So the headline is, Facebook again refuses to ban political ads, even fake ones.
Yeah.
So
do you remember all the shit with Cambridge Analytica?
Yes. Yeah.
That's kind of where this is coming from as well.
Yeah, and so what we all know Facebook does whenever there's an election on, you get targeted ads, basically. Yeah. And I was getting them from both sides when the UK election was on, because I firmly believe in knowing your enemy, so I would look at the Conservative stuff as much as the other. Yeah. So, and what they're sort of saying is that despite all the pressure from various people for Facebook to depoliticize itself, like Twitter has and like other platforms have, I think it's Twitter that bans fake political ads altogether.
Rightly so.
Yeah, it's because it shouldn't be like you can talk about it all you want, but maybe advertising isn't the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
So, but Facebook are refusing.
Flat out
refusing to ban political ads. And the problem with Facebook ads is that they're targeted. So what will happen is that you will see ads that are targeted to your sort of mindset. So say if, for example, this is talking about the 2020 presidential election, if you're a Democrat or a Republican, you're going to see Democrat or Republican ads.
Yeah.
But the thing is that because of Facebook's ad algorithm, you're going to get whatever it is.
Algorithm. And breathe.
I get very I'm not very good at podcasting. So when you get these ads from Facebook's algorithm, it'll keep sending more and more ones at you. Yeah. Because you click on it and you engage, so it thinks, right, you want to see more of this.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Now the problem is that some of these are fake, some of these are very extreme, and it causes like a little sort of echo chamber bubble.
Yeah.
Where you can't seem to escape. You know, you don't see any opinions from the other side. You can't make a balanced choice because all you're getting is bombarded by this side.
Yeah.
So, and that is proven to cause people to become extreme one way or the other. Facebook is a great tool for making people into extremists.
Oh, exactly.
And the reason that they're not banning it is because political candidates and political parties are paying Facebook to host these ads.
There's companies that spend thousands and millions on Facebook advertising because they know that they'll get the revenue back from it.
Yeah, they'll get it back. And that's why Facebook aren't banning it.
Because they're making so much money.
Because they're making so much money.
And that in turn goes over to Instagram.
Yeah.
Because Facebook owns Instagram as well.
Yeah.
So without going on too long.
Yeah, sorry, I'm bad at that.
Without going on too long, try not to click on any ads.
Well, not even try not to click on any ads, but if you feel like you're getting bombarded by like if you feel like you're getting into an echo chamber, if all you're seeing is things that reinforcing things that you already believe,
yeah,
to the point where it's getting pretty extreme,
yeah,
then is the time to step away from it,
yeah,
and actually look into the other side.
Mm-hmm. I think
try and balance your opinion.
I think actually when you're served an ad on Facebook, you can click, why am I seeing this?
Yeah.
There's like 3 dots at the top of the post. You click that and then you click on why am I seeing this, and it shows you why you're being targeted. And you can click, I don't want to see ads like this, so show me no more ads like this. And that's a good way as well to stop it happening.
Just be aware, guys. Like, I don't care which way you vote, to be honest, it's your opinion. But what I'm concerned about is that people are being manipulated. Yeah. That's what I don't like.
Well, just look at what Cambridge Analytica did. That was manipulating people.
And people were being manipulated.
They were being manipulated, swayed, and that's what threw the fucking election.
It's not acceptable. So
no,
just that's all I'm sort of saying about this is people are targeting you because they want your vote or whatever. Yeah. So, and 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the return on your vote. Yeah. So just think about it. That's all. I'm done. I'm out. I'm head out. Really? That's a fucking, like, industrial dumper truck that just went past.
Yeah. I've just realised that this is not going to be a very fun episode to start the year on.
It's not, is it?
Because I've just looked at... Because I'm still kind of doing the weird news. Because that's just interesting, is what we started with. Yeah. And, we'll keep it for at least a while. Yeah. Unless people tell us, like, otherwise.
Yeah, get fucked. Nah, mate, get fucked.
So mine comes from BBC, and they have, like, a sub-domain thing called BBC Future. Yeah. And mine is called The Medications That Change Who We Are. And it's not really an article, it's more of a study. And they're studying how regular medications from like anti-cholesterol medications to heart medications to paracetamol, like fucking Tylenol and shit like that, that the effect they have on the human brain. And they've been linked to road rage, pathological gambling, and complicated acts of fraud, apparently.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. Some make us less neurotic and others may even shape our social relationships. So, turns out that a lot of these medications, they don't just affect how you feel, they don't just take away pain, but they change how your brain functions. Yeah. And this is a very, very long article, so I'm going to be paraphrasing a lot of this. And I actually read the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually read the whole fucking thing. So, there was a study done, and Patient 5 is the only guy, it's the only name he goes by. He was in his late 50s and he had diabetes. Yeah. and he was part of a medical study to test whether anti-cholesterol medication would work as a treatment for diabetes. And soon after he began the treatment, he started getting mad road rage.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where his wife would have to turn the car around and end the journey because it was that bad. And it didn't just stop at road rage then after that. It was, he would threaten to put his family in hospital because he was so angry.
Yeah.
And, you know, he was just a vile human being while he was on this medication. And after he stopped taking the medication, he was okay. But he was almost pressured into continuing to take the medication to continue the study.
Yeah.
Because the study wasn't actually on whether the medication caused angerness, like anger. It was to do with whether it would stop his diabetes or help his diabetes in any way. So this person who fucking wrote this article and did this study, they collected reports from patients across the United States, and many people attribute medication or prescription drugs or whatever you want to call it to their broken marriages, destroyed careers, and a surprising number of men who have come extremely close to murdering their wives.
Jesus.
Out of that, like. And yeah, it goes on to, you know, give a load of examples and a lot of medical talk that I really don't understand, if I'm honest. But it also dips into paracetamol and how paracetamol can cause people to lose empathy.
It's strange.
And we all know what tendency has a lack of empathy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's just, I'm not fond of taking, you know, medication. I have to.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm definitely trying to come off it because I'm taking medication for anxiety and it's made my memory shit.
Yeah.
It's fucked up my brain. I can't remember shit now.
Like, do you remember when I was on the medication?
Which one?
Yeah, fair enough. The gabapentin I used to take, 'cause I had a neurological injury.
Yeah.
And the gabapentin was to stop, it was used as a painkiller for me, and it was to stop like phantom pains and phantom sensations and things like that.
Yeah.
As much as like a nerve blocking painkiller. And I ended up having to stop taking that because I was getting very shitty.
Yeah.
If you remember.
You were an asshole to be around.
Yeah, I wasn't great. And that was it was a known side effect of the medication. It could be like mood changes and stuff, but
like, I feel like a lot of medications have that like blanket side effects like that, like mood changes or, you know, shit like that doesn't really convey the severity of it all. But yeah, like I didn't know about painkillers.
No, I didn't either. I mean, I tend not to take painkillers anyway because I can't. But you know,
I take painkillers because like I'm not about living life in pain.
No,
I don't. If I have a headache, I don't want to live with a headache for fucking half an hour.
No, that's true.
I'll just pop a painkiller and be done with it.
True.
Go about my fucking day.
I mean, just to highlight the dangers of painkillers, full disclosure, I was addicted to codeine.
Yeah,
that's why I can't take painkillers now because I was in hospital for so long. And I was on opiate painkillers for so long. I didn't realise it at the time, but I was addicted to dihydrocodeine.
Yeah.
Which is why I can't take painkillers now.
And I called you out on it.
And you did. And I didn't even realise.
Yeah.
Cause,
until you tried to come off them.
Until I tried to come off of them. And that was fun.
Yeah. It was Christmas. I remember it was Christmas. And you almost ruined Christmas.
Yeah. Because I was coming off of a opiate withdrawal.
Yeah.
So
you weren't even living here at the time.
No, I wasn't. But that's the thing, though. I could get like 100 dihydrocodeine tablets on the prescription. It was an open prescription.
You could get as many as you
want.
want.
I could get as many as I wanted.
And like, I don't know. Pharmaceutical companies are they're assholes.
Yeah, basically.
Fucking hell, we have been rambling.
Oh, okay, yeah. So drugs are bad, okay?
Drugs are bad. Question everything. That's it. So, we're going to go on to this episode, which isn't a lot of fun.
It's not getting any better, is it? It's just getting worse.
No. This is something I've wanted to talk about for a very long time.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but the first time I heard about this, I didn't feel like that was the first time I was hearing about this. I felt like I'd known about this for a very long time.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't alive when any of this went on. I wasn't alive for any of the fallout or anything like this.
Neither was I, surprisingly.
So, I don't know, I feel very close to this.
You feel very connected to it, don't you?
And I don't know why. So, yeah. So we're going to talk about Jonestown.
Woo!
Or the People's Temple, or Jim Jones, or asshole, basically.
Oh, no, I'm not going to say it.
What?
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Stop! You can't make jokes about it. Almost 1,000 people died.
I know.
Fucked.
I know.
So at first we were going to do this as one episode, but then I turned out with about 6 pages of research.
We're sat here with like 10 pages of notes, so...
And we realised that this episode would have been like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And we have things to do this afternoon, so we can't be sitting here for 3 hours at one time talking about something.
I'm sure you've got stuff to do as well, so...
Yeah, our fucking listen time will just plummet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll begin. Full disclosure, if you're wanting to know about actual Jonestown, like in Guyana,
Yeah.
it's not going to be in this episode.
No, this is leading up to it.
Yeah, this is everything leading up to Guyana. So the next episode will be actual Jonestown.
Yeah.
So, this absolute shit show, it begins in Crete, in Indiana, in the US of A, the motherland.
Careful now.
In May of 1931. James Warren Jones, also known as Jim Jones.
Bob.
He was born, birthed, spawned, whatever you want to fucking call it.
And many have decided that this was generally a bad idea.
Yeah. And not long after his birth, it is alleged that his mother, Lynetta Jones, had a dream. And this dream convinced her that she had just given birth to a messiah. And this will come into play later.
Yeah.
You know, providing these accusations are true, there's not a lot on it, but it's something I read. So back to Crete, Indiana. For reference, it was a very, very small town. I think there was like less than 50 people there at the time. It was like a farming community, so everyone was very self-sufficient, and they didn't really need to leave to go to a bigger town because they had everything they needed. They grew everything they needed there in Crete. And I don't know if this kind of contributed to Jim Jones's childhood, how he was as a child. But his father, James Jones, was very abusive towards Jim.
Yeah.
He wouldn't show him like any affection, or he'd often beat him. Yeah. Which obviously is shit. Don't do that.
It's not great. Don't recommend it.
So he didn't have the best upbringing.
No.
To be honest. His parents struggled for money. They lost their home and farm because they couldn't pay the bills, like not long after Jim Jones was born.
Yeah.
And he struggled to make friends when he was younger because he was very alone, very isolated. And, you know, it could be contributed to the fact that, you know, his parents didn't show him any love.
Yeah.
They didn't show him any affection, you know. They probably didn't even tell him that they loved him.
Probably not, no. They probably just felt like he was a bit of an inconvenience.
Yeah.
So, which is sad, but there you go.
Yeah. So it's kind of said that everything kind of started with Jim Jones and his religious fanaticness.
Yeah.
When his neighbour took him to her local church. And this was to give Jim Jones this kind of sense of community.
Yeah.
And to show him that, you know, there are other people around and you can be friends with other people.
Yeah.
She kind of took pity on him, but probably ended up...
making him worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this church was a Pentecostal church.
Okay.
And the Pentecostal church is kind of known for their very extravagant sermons.
Oh, they're all the ones with the big... when you get the image of like a out there Christian service, it's all like that's what a Pentecostal is, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So they're the chanting, you know, the
clapping and the
yeah. They believe in healing, like, you know, faith healing kind of thing.
Yeah.
Chanting and basically just the extreme shit you see on TV. And this was Jim Jones's first encounter with anything religious.
Yeah.
Or community or anything like that, you know. It makes sense that this kind of shaped who he was because he'd never experienced this before and it was probably very, very new and everything to him. Remember when I said earlier that his mother Lynetta had a dream that she just birthed a messiah.
Yeah.
She would constantly remind Jim Jones of that.
That's a lot of pressure.
That is a lot of pressure.
That is a lot of pressure.
But imagine feeling that and hearing that after going to a Pentecostal sermon.
Oh, you'd be on top of the world, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you'd feel like a fucking god.
Yeah.
So he did have a couple of friends in school. One of his childhood friends, Chuck Wilmore, stated in an interview that Jim Jones was a weird kid. Now, we kind of knew that. But apparently he used to gather animals in a barn in his back garden and preach to them as if he was the...
Okay.
As if he was the priest, the pastor, or whatever you want to call him.
That's a little bit out there.
Yeah. And he would, whenever the animals got sick or they were hurt or something like that, he would attempt to heal them.
Yeah.
And when they ended up dying, he had like full-on funerals for them, which is kind of nice. You know, you hear a lot of bad people
killed animals, and
they started with killing animals and stuff like that. So this is a good sign for now.
Yeah.
As a teenager, he wasn't interested in kind of parties or, you know, hanging out with other friends. He just kind of read books.
Yeah.
And, you know, that sounds fine.
Yeah.
Know, until you kind of dig into, like, what he was actually reading about at this time. So he was reading about the likes of, like, Stalin, Hitler, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that in itself, but...
No, but what he did with it was bad.
That's the problem.
He was basically reading it and studying it, looking where they went wrong, and making notes on the fact.
Yeah.
And that's where we kind of see the real Jim Jones forming and shaping. Some sources say that Jim Jones formed his own church with his school friends and used to preach to them long in the night and didn't let them leave. Apparently, one guy tried to leave and he shot him or some shit like that.
It's a very outlandish claim to make,
yeah,
isn't it?
like I can only find a couple of sources on that, so I'm not entirely sure that's true.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to be said about Jim Jones, but he was never a racist.
No. Yeah, I suppose he does have that in his corner.
He kind of felt like compelled to like people of colour. And he wouldn't... It was very normal at the time to shun people of colour. Being a black person at the time wasn't a good place to be.
No, it wasn't. It was still very rough.
Yeah, and his father was also part of the KKK. Yeah. So his father and his mother split up about halfway through his teenage years.
Yeah.
And they moved to Richmond, Indiana. And he began taking it upon himself to preach on street corners about racial diversity. Yeah. And he made friends with some people of colour in the area.
Yeah.
And in 1948-ish, he met Marceline Baldwin.
Okay.
Who he met her at a hospital they both worked at. And not long after that, they married.
Yeah.
And they moved to Bloomington, Indiana. It's worth noting that around this time, Jim Jones started identifying as agnostic.
Yeah.
So he didn't believe in a god.
Which is important.
It's very important. He saw a speech by Eleanor Roosevelt about equality among races, and this seemed to really light a fire under his ass.
Kick his ass, yeah.
He would take a stand against racism wherever he could.
Yeah.
He even stopped talking to Marceline's family after they made jokes about some people of colour.
Yeah. Which is, let's be clear, that's the right thing to do.
It is.
Yeah.
It just wasn't normal for the time.
No.
I think he found some kind of family with the minority, the outcasts, those...
The isolated, and he could maybe relate to them because of his childhood and his father and everything like that.
Exactly. In 1952, he became a kind of a student pastor, a voluntary pastor at a local church, and focused on tearing down this divide between the white and black people. Yeah. He didn't have much luck, to be honest. The black people would still sit at the back of the church and they weren't welcome up the front, which is really sad. And while he did all this, he was still agnostic. Yeah. So it kind of puts into question, this question of, he had all these great views, but why use the church to front these views, And After this, Marceline and Jim Jones, they began their rainbow family.
Yeah.
What they called it themselves. They began adopting children of all colours and races.
Yeah.
Asian, black people, black children.
Yeah.
Everything like that. Any race you can imagine, they probably had a kid for it.
Yeah.
And they had one child themselves. And by all accounts at the time, he seemed to be a really decent person.
Yeah. However, so as you said yourself, he studied when he was younger. He was studying the likes of Stalin and Karl Marx and all those people.
Yeah.
Which caused him to identify as a communist. He was a communist. Mm-hmm. Okay. So America for a communist in the 50s wasn't a great place to be.
No.
America for a communist has never been a great place to be, but it particularly was bad in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. The Red Menace, I think they called them. But there were still sort of communist parties and things like that where you could go and meet and talk to like-minded people. It was just very off the radar.
Yeah.
So that's what Jim Jones would do. And he found himself questioning that obviously he couldn't be out as a communist. But how can he express his communist ideals, and how can he express himself as a Marxist and demonstrate it? And this is where the church comes from, because he's quoted himself, he thought to infiltrate the church.
Yeah.
And that's why he was into the church.
Yeah.
Because it was his way of showing his true sort of leanings.
Yeah.
It was all like not a scam, but a front.
Yeah.
If you will. So like, he was the junior pastor, joined the church, didn't like the way they treated minorities, so he left that church. And in 1954, he opened his first church in Indiana. Mm-hmm. It was his own. I think it was in a rented building or something like that.
Yeah.
It was innocently called the Community Unity Church. So
that sounds nice.
It was nice.
Like, for all the shit things he did, he started out with good intentions.
And that's probably one of the worst things about this.
Yeah.
Like, so under Jim Jones's sort of leadership is the right word for a church? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a fully integrated church and things like that. There was no sort of distinction between races or backgrounds or income levels or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which is nice. You could argue that his other motivation for going into religion was the big old American dollar.
Yeah.
Because we all know churches in America are big money.
Churches everywhere. Don't even get me started. Churches everywhere are big money.
So he'd watched other sort of faith healers at work, and thinking back to his own sort of experience with Pentecostal services when he was a kid, that was a way that he could get some cash, and that's how he could further his sort of social goals. Because at this time, he's still thinking of tearing down the divides in the community.
Yeah.
And helping people. So that's what he'd do. He began faith healing. Mm-hmm. And what he'd do is he'd use props like chicken livers and animal parts and things like that.
Yeah.
And what he'd do is he'd have people sort of pretend to remove them from people's bodies, or he'd sort of get people to sort of regurgitate them, or he'd put his hand on someone and then throw it up himself saying you're healed and things like that.
Yeah.
And these little parts with the props were the supposedly cancers and things like that. That was his angle for a faith healer.
Yeah.
So it did very well, as these things did. And his name got out there, and more people would start coming to see these services, and he was attracting spiritualists from everywhere because of he was a very charismatic man.
Yeah.
He was very charismatic, so he could talk the talk.
Definitely.
And he could get people on his side. So thanks to all this cash, he was able to buy a building for his first church. Because he was getting so many people.
Yeah.
He had to buy his own church, and this was in 1956. It was first called the Wings of Deliverance. Not a terrible name.
No.
But then it changed to the People's Temple of the Full Gospel of Christ.
Yeah.
So
here we go.
Here we go. We're starting now. It wasn't enough.
It never is.
It never was enough. So him and a few other pastors, like Jim, who was attracting these people and was throwing these big services and stuff.
Yeah.
They sort of get together and they do big conventions, and they'd attract up to sort of 11,000 people.
Yeah.
And from everywhere.
Yeah.
And don't forget about all those donation dollars and,
of course,
and things like that.
And probably racked up thousands in those donations.
So, and he'd do his healings on stage, but it was getting so fake now that he'd have his secretary in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
He'd go up to her, cure her, and she'd get up from the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Like, so that's the kind of fakery that he was doing now. The other thing that he was supposedly was a clairvoyant.
Oh yeah, here we fucking go.
He claimed it. Well, I don't know whether he claimed he was a clairvoyant or whether his followers claimed he was a clairvoyant.
He probably planted
maybe gave the idea. So Jim the Prophet, his new name is. So Jim the Prophet, or Jim the Seer, he would single people out, tell them their phone number, their address, their social security numbers, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And people would be like, how?
Like, how do you know this?
How do you know this? Wow. We know how he knows this.
I put a little note in your notes.
You did. We know exactly how he knows this. What he would do is, obviously, he's got his people's temple's got staff and people who are loyal to him.
Yeah.
Who are following now his cult, because Colin, what he at this point is a cult of personality. People are not following his teachings, they're following the man.
Yeah.
So he'd have his followers. He would call up people who had signed up to these conventions, pretending to be a survey agency.
Yeah.
And he'd get the information from them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know those weird-ass glasses he used to wear?
Yeah.
They were tinted so that people wouldn't see him looking down at his notes. Mm-hmm. And it'd still look like he was looking forward.
Yeah, because he kept all his notes on his podium.
So that's how he got away with it.
Yeah.
Like, because he had those special tinted glasses. Like, and that really sort of shows him starting to slide, because it's not so much about, is it about helping people now, or is it the power that he's getting?
Yeah.
It's in that sort of grey area where you could argue that he was doing all this fakery because he could use it to help people.
Yeah.
Or is it that the power's starting to go to his head a little bit?
I think it's more the power starting to go to his head.
Yeah.
He realises the reaction and the devotion he can get from these people by doing this stuff.
And he'd have, like, himself and some of his sort of close followers would be driving around various cities, and even as far as like Utah and things like that. Utah to get more followers, to sign people up, and most importantly to collect those dollars.
Oh, absolutely.
So by the 60s, the People's Temple was, you could argue it was a model of a proper church, because it had a very casual dress code, so there was no divide between people wearing the best and people only turning up in what they could afford.
Yeah.
Like, there was none of that. It was fully integrated. They had proper social services. They had rent assistance, job placements, things like that. Actual, genuine projects that would have done a lot of good in the community and probably helped a lot of people. They'd have like a free winter fuel thing where they give people coal for the winter and stuff like that. You know, it was... if you just looked at that specific point of the People's Temple and Jim Jones, and you think, that man's he's the man, like.
But see, that's what you see from the outside, and that's what draws you in.
Yeah, and then by the time you're in, though, that's the problem.
Yeah.
But regardless of that, he even had a soup kitchen that could do 3,000 meals a month, and him and his wife would actually be on the soup kitchen serving the people and stuff.
Like, from the outside, if you're looking at that, like, this is the place to be. Like, you get really well taken care of.
This is like a social utopia in one of the poorest places in America.
Exactly. So it looks very alluring.
And maybe that's the attraction.
It definitely is the attraction.
He was even appointed head of the Human Rights Commission. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how good it looked.
Yeah. That's
on the outside, though. And the inside, it just wasn't enough for Jim Bob Jones. Because the power's gone to his head.
Yeah. It'll never be enough.
And that's the sad thing. Really, it's never going to be enough.
Like, you know, I'd ask at what point do you stop, but we all know at what point it stopped.
Yeah, that's the sad truth. So he began sort of trying to broaden his horizons to try and see, I think, trying to attract more people in. Yeah. Because this idea of being in community was probably so... You have someone who's been isolated for a lot of their life, but who's also been told they're a messiah. Yeah. So they feel the need to be in a community, but they also need to be revered.
Yeah.
Like,
and looked up to.
And
idolised.
Yeah. So there was another fella called Father Divine, and this guy was a straight up loon. He was in another cult-like sect. Mm-hmm. Kind of thought he was God. Yeah. A little bit. Mm-hmm. But he also had this, like, really impassioned way of delivering his speeches. Like, you think proper evangelical preacher, all singing, all dancing, arms up in the air, everything like that, really giving it the beans. Mm-hmm. You put an interesting note in that Jim couldn't actually stand Divine in the 50s.
No.
Like, he thought he was a disgusting human being.
Yeah.
And then for Jim to start not even liking him, but emulating him.
Yeah.
Shows his real slip into power.
Yeah.
Because in the 50s, Jim's saying, well, I hate this man because of what he does to his followers.
And 10 years later...
I can emulate this person to get more followers.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
There's a switch there. There's a switch that flicks.
Yeah. And
in that 10 years.
That's how to do it.
Yeah.
That's how to do it. So it was around now in sort of like the early 60s.
Yeah.
That the church started changing. There were specific Bible verses that Jim liked to really emphasise on.
Yeah.
Because they kind of, if they were interpreted in the right way, would portray Jesus as a full-on communist. Right? So what he'd do is he'd really emphasise those passages. Like, really home down on them.
Isn't that what all fucking churches do? They take the Bible and make it fit whatever they want.
Yeah, but he would then... he'd totally disregard the rest of it to the point of attacking it.
Oh, of course.
And shredding it to pieces, but he'd really emphasise this one passage.
Yeah.
That would be like... that sort of in his mind proved that Jesus was a communist.
What is it?
I can't remember. I didn't write it down.
For fuck's sake! You're honing in on this passage. What is it? Can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember, mate. But that...
You can look it up.
I'll look it up. But the important thing was that it wasn't so much the passage and that was irrelevant. It was his way of doubling down on it that was the important part.
Yeah.
Because he knew that if he drove this message home, he was getting into people's heads.
Yeah.
It was a way of conditioning people to believe what he wanted to believe.
That's it.
It could have been any part of the Bible or anything, but it was the way he delivered it.
Because he was so charismatic.
Because of his charisma, he could do things like that. And it was almost like he was putting a spell on them. And he used that to such devastating effect.
Yeah.
Really. What he'd do as well is that it was like around then where the records of him really singling people out in his congregation.
Yeah.
And really going full bore onto them.
Yeah.
And attacking them and things like that. And really not even attacking them, but calling them out in front of the congregation.
Oh yeah, he was a grunt.
Yeah, he wasn't a good dude for doing that. So, and that helped isolate people.
Yeah.
Which is what he was trying to do. He was trying to isolate people and control them. There's no way to make someone feel small than to attack them in a group in front of their peers.
Yeah.
That's a textbook way of isolating somebody.
Yeah.
And it's a really dick thing to do as well, by the way.
Yeah. That's bullies. That's what bullies do.
He was bullying them.
Yeah.
He was specifically picking people to bully them.
But because of the way he delivered it with his charisma...
Yeah.
You wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah. And it began to cultivate this sort of us versus them mentality, which is so important later.
Yeah.
It was either you are with me and us and the family, or you're against us.
You're part of the problem.
And you're part of the problem. There was no middle ground for Jim Jones at this point.
You were either in or you're out.
Or out. Everyone was a person to be converted, and if they didn't want, that was it. They were out.
They were the enemy.
Yeah. And really, this was a very glaring red flag of what was to come later.
Yeah.
Because what Jim would do, and not even Jim, just at this point, it was higher up members of the temple would do it as well. They would purposefully try and isolate people from the outside world and try and control people and manipulate people into believing these ideas. So it began around the same time that Father Divine stuff get into his head.
Yeah.
Where he'd suggest that people were to abstain from having sex. Mm-hmm. And adopt children instead. And then he'd be asking them, but I'm saying asking with inverted commas because I don't think anyone was really asked with a choice.
Yeah.
To call him like father or dad and things like that, and to actually start seeing him as the Messiah that he thinks he is.
Yeah.
Like to start really sort of worship him as an idol. They'd isolate members from family or friends by like saying that you had to spend Christmas with the temple, you had to spend Thanksgiving with the temple. If your family weren't interested in joining with the temple, then they are the problem.
Yeah.
They're the enemy, it's their problem, it's not you. They're the bad ones.
Yeah.
And things like that, that was just a specific example, but he'd do that for all sort of areas of life.
Yeah.
If they didn't want to be involved with the temple, they were the problem.
Yeah.
You're not the problem, they're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this worked to really cut off his followers from the outside world.
Yeah.
because they were so devoted to his personality that they couldn't see it's what he's the problem, not their family and their friends.
Mm-hmm.
So you imagine this with this us versus them mentality.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very toxic situation, but it's very good for Jim.
Of course it is.
Because he says, I want this doing, and he has people clambering over the top of each other to do it because he's the only one that's giving them any sort of social stability.
Yeah.
So and this is when he began sort of toying with his idea of what he called religious communism. So in his perfect idea of religious communism, his congregation would sign their stuff over to him, the church would look after them, and that'd be great, that'd be lovely. But communism was still a very hard sell, so he put it on the back burner for now.
Yeah.
But his attacks against religion and the established religion and things like that, they still carried on.
Yeah.
And his his isolation and control of people, that's very much still carried on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now in 1961, Jim the Seer, because he has a different name for every stupid thing he does, he had a vision, he claims, where he claims he saw Indianapolis and Chicago destroyed in a nuclear attack.
Yeah.
And in the 60s, this is a brilliant way to get people scared.
Yeah.
Because it's at the height of the bad part of the Cold War.
Yeah.
So it's a very real possibility of a nuclear attack. It sounds a bit outlandish now, but back then...
But it doesn't sound outlandish now, but
does
let's
it now?
not go into that.
Does it? Well, back then, it was a genuine fear that bombs were going to start falling.
I think it's been a genuine fear ever since.
Yeah, basically. So, and people were rightly terrified, and this played into his thing perfectly.
Played into his pocket.
Yeah, and it played into his pocket very well as well. So he decided that to keep his followers safe, they all needed to up sticks and move. Then there was a Time article out at the time about this is the nature of the times, 10 safest places to be in a nuclear attack.
Yeah.
And quite high on that list was a place in Brazil. So he took his family and off he went. He went for a little...
Only his family.
Only his family. He went for a little adventure. Not a great deal is known about his time in Brazil, but there was an interview with his neighbour out in 1988, and they're cited as saying that he lived as a rich man, staying in a high-end hotel with and then moving to a large house in a very well-to-do area. So, What do you think's funding that lifestyle?
Yeah.
But he also was claiming that he was a retired Navy man, recuperating from the Korean War.
Oh, get fucked.
But then his wife would say that they were only there for her health because she had lung problems and the clear air was helping.
Get fucked.
So, we don't really know what he was up to. He could have been up to anything. But he did seem to have a routine. And the routine was he'd leave early in the early morning, dressed very well, with a briefcase, and he'd return in the late evening with his briefcase. No one knows where he went or what he did or anything. Apart from one thing where he was supposedly seen arguing with a religious leader in the area. Mm-hmm. But that's it. No one really knows what he was up to. But like we say, it's probably fair that the church was funding this little foray.
Yeah.
So there you go. In his absence, though, without his charisma and fearmongering, the church wasn't doing as well for its money.
No.
So at some point in his time as Brazil, he befriended a pastor who he then sent back to the USA to try and even things out in the church. Mm-hmm. And we don't know how well that went, but we know in 1963 he returned. There's a couple of theories of why he returned to the US. Some sources say that he felt bad for abandoning this social project.
Yeah. Some
sources say that he ran out of money and the church couldn't send him anymore.
Yeah.
The Brazilian government seems to think that his visa ran out.
Uh-huh.
So you kind of make your own mind up about why he went back.
Yeah.
But he did.
Yeah.
So he got up to some shenanigans in Brazil. No one's really sure what he did in Brazil.
Uh-huh.
But he got up to some shenanigans. Either way, he returned, and he was still really driving home this nuclear threat.
Yeah.
Which is why he moved to California.
So on this list that he had of the 10 safest places to be, Eureka, California was quite high on that list for whatever reason. And I think it was 1965.
Yeah.
He announced to everyone that they were going to pack up and move off to California. And Eureka was kind of like a really isolated backcountry town. And it's kind of thought he did this to stop people leaving, because at this stage while he was away, a lot of people left.
Yeah, which explains why his donations were down so much.
Yeah, and a lot of people decided not to follow him, but most decided to go with him to California. Yeah. And when they arrived, they fucked off a bit, about 2 hours away, to Redwood Valley. And from a quick Google on Redwood Valley while I was researching this, it's pretty fucking desolate. Like, even now, like, there's not a lot there. And the people, the followers, they quickly got to work, and they built a temple, administration offices. I think they built like a doctor's office place thing. Yeah. They built everything from scratch. Some even went and purchased their own homes nearby. Yeah. He allowed that, which is quite shocking to me, to be honest. Yeah. But it had to be nearby so they could be close to the temple and be there whenever they're called and everything. Now, this is quite important. Jim Jones, even though he was still agnostic, he's still denying God and everything to do with religion. He decided to start performing stuff like baptisms and weddings and funerals in a very religious way. And that, I think that kind of contributes to the front he was putting on to the public.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because they did a lot of charity work and they helped out the local community. I think they donated a lot of money to the local sheriff's office. They purchased some care homes, I believe. Yeah. And they would get money from the state for these care homes. Yeah. I think they'd get, it was either $300 a day or a week per person they had in their care. Yeah. Money. Like,
it's all money.
It goes straight in his pocket.
The thing, though, he knows how to buy influence. And that's what he's doing there. Exactly. He's buying influence, he's buying power.
He's putting on a very professional and welcoming front to the people on the outside.
But with donating to the authorities as well, it allows them to turn the blind eye sometimes.
Exactly.
That's the other thing he's buying there. He's buying that, it can't be Jim, so it must be something else.
Yeah, like, oh, Jim's such a good guy, it could never be him.
He's buying that.
You know, he's automatically putting a very positive image of himself. Yeah. So say if down the line some of his followers left and they went to the police about what is going to happen, they'd be like, nah, mate. Yeah. No, you're fucking lying.
Because of how well thought Jim is.
Yeah. And how his image is portrayed. Very manipulative, very calculated. And while they were there, they bought several buses and they kitted them out. And they'd use these to go on like tours of America to try and recruit new followers, which worked. Yeah. So he very much like started throwing himself into this Father Divine character. Yeah. And he really, really started emulating him. Yeah. From banning sex, getting people to call him father and dad. Yeah. He started believing in like communal living. Yeah. So he was trying to get people now to live on the compound. Yeah. Basically. And he denounced homosexuality. Being gay was a sin. Huh. It was not, he wasn't fond of it. You know, he was like, you can't do this. Yeah. But guess who was arrested for trying to solicit a male sex worker in Los Angeles? And was caught masturbating in a movie theatre.
Would that be Jim Jones?
You fucking guessed it.
Jim the pervert.
Jim the pervert. So obviously this all got back to his followers and his people. They were fucking outraged. Rightly so. Yeah. But this is kind of where I feel that his charisma really comes out. Yeah. Because he was able to talk his way out of it. He said that it was the male sex worker, I'm just going to refer to him as the male. Yeah. That it was for the male's own good, and so the male would be able to connect with him and the church. Okay?
You're not telling me they believe that, are
you? He also said everyone else in the world was gay, and he was the only true heterosexual.
Gonna have to call bullshit on that one.
Yeah. And he said it was like a great pain for him to have to do that and all this other fucking bullshit, right? And his charges were dropped. So this was a huge turning point for the People's Temple and Jim Jones in general, because he couldn't release all his sexual tensions outside the church, so where's the fuck is he gonna go?
Yeah.
So he goes inside the church.
That's a poor choice of words, that is.
Yeah, and he started preying on multiple members of the church. Some sources say even minors.
Oh, that's dirty.
Yeah.
That's dirty.
And he said that sex with him would help you relate to the cause of the church, and it was an unenjoyable sacrifice for him to do it.
I'm sure it was.
But he even kept a fucking schedule of his sexual appointments.
Fuck's sake.
It was like, oh yeah, right, 2 o'clock sex with Mary. You know, that'll last, 2 minutes? Like, fuck off. And
he doesn't enjoy it, though.
No, it's a sacrifice.
It's great sacrifice.
But his wife, Marceline, started getting, like, unimaginable back pain, so she was no good to him. You know, you can't have sex if you have a bad back. So he decided to have several affairs.
Oh, good old Jim. Jim the homewrecker?
No, homewrecker's someone else.
Oh.
You know, someone else who, like, say, if you were to cheat on me...
So, Jim the adulterer.
That's it.
Jim the adulterer.
That's it. He got one of his followers pregnant.
Oh, dear.
Now, as you can imagine, how is that going to happen if you can't have sex?
Yeah. Whoops.
So, rather than throw her out and outcast her and then have her have, you know, all this backlash about to come to him, he sent her off to Mexico for 9 months.
That was nice of him. Nice holiday.
Yeah, nice little 9-month break. But when she came back with a baby, he announced to the church that this woman was raped while she was in Mexico.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
And that's how she has a baby.
Jim the liar.
All while this is going on, he began recruiting fiercely.
Yeah.
He was fucking going hard at trying to get
putting
people.
in some mad hard work.
But it was all very calculated because he would recruit even numbers of demographics to appear very inclusive.
Yeah.
So roughly the same amount of white people to black people to other, like, to Asians and whatever.
Yeah.
Very inclusive. But he would particularly prey on the vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the people with nothing to lose and everything like that. So,
well, they'd make their most devoted followers.
Exactly.
Because if he gives them something...
Exactly.
And then they're afraid to lose it.
They're automatically indebted to him.
Yeah.
So the homeless, drug addicts, sex workers, those kinds of people.
Very, very calculating.
And it worked so well that in 1973, the church had 2,573 members.
Wow.
All living in this compound.
That must have been a pretty impressive compound.
60 acres.
Jesus.
Yeah. And obviously communal living, so everyone was very close together. So at this point now, Jim Jones tried incredibly hard to strip everyone of their individuality.
Yeah.
And make them dependent on him.
Yeah.
Whether it's financially, emotionally, physically, everything. They relied on Jim.
He had to be the centre of attention.
Exactly. He would demand that church members work on the land very long hours, often dawn to dusk.
Yeah.
And those who couldn't work, so the old, the sick, the children, they were forced to donate a hefty amount, I think like 25 to 30% of their paycheck to the church.
Good grief.
He also stripped members of their personal and sentimental belongings.
Yeah.
Because they said they should all be equal.
Yeah.
No one should have more than the other.
Yeah.
Whereas look who's basking in...
Yeah, who's basking in all his wealth.
Yeah. And it all accumulated to around 20 grand a week.
Wow, that's an insane amount of money.
So Jim Jones and the church, I use fucking quotation marks for church because, needless to say, these members didn't see anything of this money. They saw nothing.
No.
Around this time as well, there was a very big planning committee for work that needs to go on in the compound and, you know, structures that need to be built and everything like that. One of the planning committee members, they found amphetamines in Jim Jones's bag. Yeah. And it's thought that this drug use kind of made Jim Jones significantly more crazy. Yeah. And this is where things kind of take like a dark kind of turn.
Implying it wasn't dark enough already?
Oh, this is... Okay, so it started off kind of light. Yeah. Then it got dark. Then it got darker. This is the darker part. And then when Guyana comes, that's the darkest. Yeah. So one afternoon, while everyone was gathering ready for a sermon, So they were all kind of in the parking lot waiting to be called to go into the church.
Yeah.
They hear a gunshot, like a very, very loud gunshot. And, you know, they're panicking. They're panicking. They look to Jim Jones to see, like, what to do. Like, what do we do?
Yeah.
He clutches his chest and a red stain starts to appear.
Wow.
And he drops to the floor. And members of his, like, inner circle, like, you know, his very, very close friends who know what's going on.
Yeah.
They take him into the church and everyone's fucking frantic. They just think Jim Jones has been assassinated.
Yeah.
They're really panicking.
Yeah.
And sometime after, Jim Jones comes out in a new shirt and he's healed. He's healed himself. So, yeah, he made everyone believe that he healed himself.
Yeah.
And he actually had the fucking gall to hang up the bloodstained shirt in the church as a warning to everyone that I'm in danger, people are out to get me and everything like that.
Did no one notice there wasn't a hole in it?
I'm getting to that in a minute. He kept up this ruse that he and the church members were in constant danger. He would lie and say that there were bombs under the buses so people couldn't leave. That sniper dots were kind of tracking him everywhere he went. Even going as far as putting glass in his own food.
Fucking hell.
So he was constantly in danger. Someone was constantly looking to assassinate him and get rid of him. He would regularly kind of drop to the floor, like either having a fit or, you know, just passing out or choking. And obviously everyone would get worried about him. But then
he'd be miraculously healed again.
He'd stand up and be like, I am healed, and everything would be fine.
They have tried to kill me again, but I, the true Messiah, have healed myself.
Exactly. Now, every sane person is going to wonder, why didn't anyone question this? Like, why did no one question his sicknesses or his assassination attempts? Or the fact that there was no bullet hole in his shirt?
Yeah.
And it goes back to the way Jim Jones was incredibly charismatic and manipulative.
Yeah.
If you look at any other cult leader, like take Charles Manson, for example, they're all very charismatic.
Yeah.
You can't lead a cult if you're not charismatic.
No, you can't. If you can't have the words in the first place, you can't do it.
Yeah. And I guess people felt that they had no reason to doubt him because he'd done, in their eyes, he had done so much for them. Yeah. He'd taken them off the streets. He'd, you know, given them jobs, homes, families, and everything like that. And given them a life of luxury to what they'd
had before.
Exactly. And they felt they were kind of indebted to him. Yeah. And he knew that. Jim Jones knew that he had them right where he wanted them. Yeah. And they say the only way to solidify a group of people and to unite a group of people is to give them a common enemy and a common fear. Yeah. And that's exactly what he did.
Because they were all constantly feeling like they were being watched and attacked, and
they had the fear that everyone on the outside was out to get them,
which further isolates them from the outside world.
Exactly. But all of this loyalty, all of this love, and all of this respect, it wasn't enough for Jim Jones. He still felt like everyone would leave him. Yeah. And this is where he started looking into moving again. Yeah. Moving to a more isolated area to really finally isolate these people. Yeah. And that's where I leave it for today.
And that's the end of today's episode.
So that's where we leave it. And next episode will be the rest of it.
Yeah. Next episode is Guyana.
Yeah. Guyana and everything that happens with Guyana and the tragic end.
And how it all goes wrong. Exactly. Implying it's not already gone wrong before.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing, and that's the end of it.
Yeah. I mean, we've said before when we've talked about it that if it had been enough for him in Indiana, or if it had been, or something like that, if he could have felt that he'd achieved, then Jim Jones would have probably been treated as a modern day hero.
He would have, and I will say it, and I have no problem saying this. I think he started out with great intentions. Yeah. I think it started out as a way to unite a very divided society. And I think that's what he started with.
And it just went wrong.
And between the hunger for power, the drugs, everything like that, it just went wrong. Yeah. And I know it's no excuse. And I'm not trying to excuse him. He was a vile man who did vile things.
Oh, he was a disgusting human being.
But his upbringing had a lot to do with it.
It did. No, it did. It's people are a product of their surroundings and their upbringing.
Like, he grew up not knowing love and not knowing tenderness and, you know, not knowing what it felt like to be wanted, and then all of a sudden all these people want him, and all of these people look up to him. He's addicted to that power.
How is he gonna... Of course he's gonna be afraid of losing that. Yeah.
And so he goes to extreme lengths to stop that from happening.
Like, he's not the thing is, he's not a straight up bad guy. He didn't start with the intention of hurting people, I think.
Oh, he is a straight up asshole. He's a straight up bad guy.
Oh no, in the end he's a straight up bad guy, but in the beginning he wasn't.
Yeah, he was...
He's more complicated than that.
I think he had very good intentions.
Yeah.
And power corrupts.
Power does corrupt. No one should want to be in charge.
No.
And Jim wanted to be in charge.
Yeah. And that's problematic.
Yeah. So, and it's such a... Probably the other problem with Jonestown is that he was so good at it.
It goes back to the charisma. Yeah. Every cult leader has it.
Yeah.
If a cult leader doesn't have charisma, your fucking cult's going to fail.
Yeah.
Because people don't like you.
No.
You need the people to like you.
Like, you need to be relatable to them.
Yeah.
But you also need to have ascended above them.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Exactly. Give them something to aspire to work towards, to idolize.
But you need to be relatable to them so that they can see that you started where they were.
Exactly. And that's where Jim Jones had it.
Yeah.
He started, he empathized with what was the minority at the time.
Because he was from a fractured home. He'd been kicked around a lot.
Yeah.
And they empathized with him and they saw him ascend.
Yeah.
And that's how you get the devoted people, because they've seen him do it.
As well as the fact that to them, he can heal people.
Yeah.
He can, see the future. He knows things about them that no one else should know.
But that's the other thing as well. It's that we're saying it's all a product of his upbringing and the circumstances and things like that. Let's not forget that he took the choice to manipulate these people.
Oh, absolutely.
He knew exactly what he was doing. Like, he knew what buttons to push, what to say, what to do.
We're not saying that, we shouldn't feel bad for him because he came from a broken home. Like, everyone has shitty upbringings.
Yeah.
90% of people have shitty upbringings, but 90% of people don't go around being cult leaders.
Yeah. Like, he made the choices he made, and he knew exactly what he was doing.
It wasn't the case of he did all this by accident.
No.
Jonestown wasn't formed on an accident.
No, it was formed from... What we're trying to get at is it was formed back from Indiana all the way up to Guyana.
Yeah.
That was all the formation of Jonestown, and every decision he made was a decision step closer to Jonestown.
Exactly, and I don't think he deserves any sympathy at all.
No, he doesn't.
Just because, obviously being abused as a child is awful.
It is, absolutely.
Feeling like the outcast I was the outcast as a child.
Yeah, like, it's awful. It's an awful feeling.
But it just shows the person that you are if that defines who you grow up to be.
Not even if it defines that, but if you actively use that later in life.
Exactly.
To spread that kind of misery.
Exactly.
If you take what you've learned from your childhood and use it against people in the future, then you are the worst kind of human being.
Yeah.
Like...
It's just a shame how it all ended.
It is. It's... You wish people could have seen from the outsider's perspective. But then it must have been hard because you're already in by then. But
then, I don't know if anyone's not familiar with Jonestown and you want it to be a surprise or whatever, like it's a TV show or some shit, kind of listen away. But, people were onto what he was doing.
Yeah.
And look what he did.
Yeah. Yeah. So...
That's how he dealt with being found out.
Yeah. And we should probably leave it there, I think.
We'll leave it there.
We'll leave it there.
We'll leave it for the next episode. And we will actually do this next episode. It's not going to be one of those, we promised a two-parter or a three-parter.
It's not the internet part 2.
No.
Do you remember when we said we'd do that?
Yeah. That's still on our board to do.
It still needs doing.
Yeah, we've made a Trello board of... all ideas for YouTube videos and podcast episodes and stuff like that. So,
and the internet part 2 is on there.
The internet part 2 and 3 is on there. And 3. So that's that.
Yep.
We will leave it there.
Yeah, we will. So thank you all for listening.
I have announcements to make. Well, not announcements, but the shit to do, the closing.
Go on then. You do.
So if you like this episode, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our Snapchats will be linked below. We're never on it. But
Yeah, I don't even have Snapchat on my new phone.
Like, I'll link our Snapchats below.
Don't expect anything.
If you want, I'll link our personal Instagrams below, and you can follow us on there if you want to. If you want merch, we still have merch with the old logo.
Yeah.
That will be changing by March. So if you want merch with the old logo, get it soon because it'll be gone by March. And if you want to subscribe to us on YouTube and see the low quality content we put out on there.
This is the high quality content section. The YouTube is the low quality content. I'm a meme. That's how low quality it is.
Like, there's not like a strict schedule to posting.
There's no schedule to posting.
No.
What are you talking about?
No. Like, there'll probably be a new video up by the day this is released because I'm going to go edit it tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, then we do have things to release, though,
like,
so...
We've got a backlog of videos and stuff. And,
yeah, we're just lazy people.
You know, no, I'm working. I work a lot.
Yeah, I have a job now. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he has a job now.
I've got a job again now, so...
For now.
For now.
I'll link our YouTube below if you want to go and subscribe. And don't forget, if you really like us, you can leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher or even Facebook.
Yeah.
And leave us a review. Or if you want to email us and have a chat, you know, we welcome those as well.
I like social interaction. Someone please talk to me.
spectralasylum@gmail.com. If you have a spooky story you want to share, we're kind of working on a backlog of them as well. Yeah. Just email those over to us or send us a DM on one of the social medias or something.
Yeah.
What else? Was there else? There's something else. No, I had it in my head. Ah, fuck. Oh yeah, and if you want us to go live on Instagram or Facebook, we might do that at some point.
Yeah, if we get anyone on that one.
Yeah. If you want to, we can like make a time and we can, you know, all hang out. We can either do Facebook Live or Instagram Live. It's whichever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a head out.
All right, we're finished now. We will see you in 2 weeks for part 2.
Yeah. Actually 2 weeks this time.
Yeah.
Not, what was it, 6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 months. We will be back in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 How the fuck do I turn this thing off?
Bye.
Bye. I've lost the button again.
Bye.